This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. This podcast is brought to you by Titan Builders. Titan Builders have been remodeling condos and homes in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. Whether it's remodeling your kitchen or bathroom or getting your home ready for sale, Mike and Mark are your go-to guys. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. So today, we are talking about the recap of the end of the year. We are closing out 2024, heading into 25. So we want to kind of look back. I don't know about you guys. I'm a little sad that we're leaving 24, solely because of one big reason, and that's because the number 24 is my favorite number. I was born on March 24th. For anybody that's out there, if you want to send me gifts, it's cool. So I do like 24. I'm a little partial to 24. So as we go into 25, I don't know. The number itself isn't something that I love, but we're heading into 2025. And we're going to be starting a new, that's going to be the end of the 5-year cycle. Real estate normally goes in 5-year cycles. So next year will be the 5th year of a 5-year cycle. But we're going to talk about the predictions. But just to kind of throw my thoughts on the recap here, that we're out of the 24. And, what we wanted to do today is just talk about some things that we saw happen, like kind of like an end of the year summary of the market. And, one of the questions is how would I sum up the market as a whole? Overall, this was a strong market. 24 was a very strong market. It was better than 23. 23 was a down year for us and for everybody and for the industry as a whole. I felt 23, Michael Jordan year, we'll call it, right? It was a little bit of a speed bump. 22, you were flying down that highway. Top was down. Wind was blowing in your hair. Just enjoying life. Sales were flying. Markets were good. People were loving life. Then all of a sudden the rates hopped up, and it's just boom, you hit that speed bump, blew out that tire, and you had to pull over on the side of the road and kind of had to recalculate how we were going to go about these things and wait for the tow truck to come to fix the tire. And that's kind of how I felt 23 was. It was kind of tough. But going in 24, we knew 24 was going to be better than 23, and I will tell you that, sales were up across the board for most of the city and for the state and for the industry, and prices were up. I would say overall, this was a solid year. It wasn't the best year of all time. It wasn't the greatest real estate market of all time, but this was a good year. It was good. It wasn't great. It was an unbelievable. And I'm sure somebody's out there who's like, my best year ever. I mean, we'll talk about our stats too. I'm just saying that overall, it was a good market. It wasn't the best I've ever seen. Definitely was not bad. It wasn't worst. It was good. It's good. It's good. It's like that scene in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It gets the egg down. It's like, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It was good. That's how it was. It was just good. It wasn't the best ever. So that's kind of like how I would sum this thing up overall. Was the market better or worse than previous years? It was better. I'd say 24 was one of the best years I've seen in a while, but not the best year ever. Was 24 better than like a 17 or 18? I kind of felt like it was. Was it better than a 22? Nope. Was it better than like an 05, 06? Nope. Sometimes, you know how I classify years sometimes in real estate, like looking back? For all my fellow wine snobs out there, it's like, like 11 for Bordeaux was what we call a difficult year, right? They never say bad, they say difficult, but 9s and 10s were, 5s and 6s were really good, 11 was like, So when I look at real estate, I'm like, 24 was good. It was good. It wasn't like an 05 vintage good, but it was good, What's my biggest sale of the year? I think a lot of people, first off, I don't get like $30 million sales. I was out to dinner with somebody the other day, I won't name any names. Great person. Really enjoyed them. She had like a $30 million sale. It's like, man, that $30 million is like, fuck. That's some like serious, like real, that's a sale. We honestly, like I could sit here and lie to you. We don't do $30 million sales. Like, we had a couple like in the 4s. I don't think we broke 5 this year. I'd have to check. I mean, to me, the biggest sale is like when a client had a good experience and honestly sends me a message afterwards like, hey, like, we really appreciated your services and, like, we thought you made our life easier. Like, to me, I don't give a shit what the number is, you know? We're about building, like, a consumer experience. It's not about the dollar sold. It's about, delivering a service and having you see that we're the best at our craft. But, I know a lot of agents like to brag that they do these $30 million, $20 million sales. And by the way, I'm not saying the person that was doing that was bragging by any means. They just mentioned it, and I was like, fuck. I've never seen that. But, Chicago's also not a market where it has, like, a ton of, like, huge sales either. Like, I'm not saying there's not some agents that only do, like, $5 or $6 million sales, but they're just not. If you lived your life around I only want to do $5 million sales, you honestly would not exist in this industry. Like, you just wouldn't. $5 million sales gets made in the paper here, okay? $5 million sales in, like, New York or Miami is like, it's like $1 million sale here. It's like, they happen. It's not like, it's nothing to brag about. It's just, like, kind of like a basic thing. So you have to remember is we're not, like, as big of a huge sale market. We're not LA or Miami or New York where, like, everything's $20, $30 million plus. What's my small sale of the year? I mean, I don't know. I know he sold something under 100,000. I know that. I mean, I sold some parking spaces too, but again, that's what I mean. Somebody calls me up, it's like, hey, I mean, we get this all the time. It'll be like a good client, right? They bought like maybe a place for $1 million. Like, hey, my son needs to buy a place. I got $125,000 budget. I want to buy something like Rogers Park. Do you have anybody to help him? I'm like, hey, this is a good referral of mine. Of course I'll help him. And maybe I'm not going to be the one that's showing him the $125,000 properties. I'll have one of my agents do it, but I'll negotiate and do all that stuff for him. So, again, we're not too big or too small for anything. We're here to help. So, people throw these questions in here, and it's a big thing people talk about. To be honest with you, I don't really care what I don't look at dollars. It's like how I judge people. I judge people based on, like, their personalities and character. I don't judge them on anything else. Like, I don't give a shit what you stand for. It's like, either are you cool? Can we talk? Want to bullshit about wine, sports, food, whatever you want to talk about? I don't know. Like, if we can have a conversation, it doesn't matter to me. So, what do I think about NAR lawsuit and how that affected the end of the year numbers for stuff? I mean, we've beaten this thing to death here. Like, we've had like 3 podcasts about it. Honestly, I don't think it. I think everybody was nervous about the change. We're like, what? It's past August 17th, September, October, November, December. You're talking 4.5 months into this thing. Like, I mean, it's not had any effect. We get some people that I probably would have met and converted that just won't meet with us because they don't want to sign the touring agreement. I am not somebody who will show somebody something without a touring agreement or a buyer's agreement signed. I won't do it. I will fire anybody on my team automatically. No questions asked, no warnings. If you show something about a touring agreement or a buyer's agreement signed, you are automatically fired. There's no like, oh, slap on the wrist. It's just like, you're fucking out of here. I'm going to make example of you to everybody. And anybody that hires you in the future, I'm going to tarnish your name. Because we are an ethical group. I am a raw individual, but I am a by-the-book guy. I will not break the rules. I'll call you out if you do break the rules. Because whether I agree with the law or I don't, there's a lot of shit I don't agree with. But guess what? Like, I'm not out there making the rules, so I'm here to follow them. Like, I'll bitch about them just like everybody else. But we're not gonna not do them. But I will tell you that I don't really think on an overall basis that it's gonna happen. And honestly, like, with some new people in charge of the government, where there's now articles coming out saying that these buyer agreements are unfair advantages to buyers. They may get rid of them. So, I mean, I think the whole law, it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, if a seller doesn't want to pay, they couldn't have paid before. Now it's just like more in the open, but it's had almost no effect on the business. Literally none. I mean, it's some low-hanging fruit that we maybe don't meet, but I do also think it's locked up some clients that maybe wouldn't have used it in the future. So I think there's good and there's bad to it. Do I think Trump winning an election played a part in the end of the year numbers? I'm not getting into this. You talk good or bad about one party or the other. Like, you lose either way because you got people on both sides, and I got clients on both sides. I'm not getting into that one because somebody's gonna get upset. Which neighborhood performed the best this year? I would say probably like Lincoln Park, West Town, and then like Roscoe. Under 500,000, 2-bed, 2-bath. I mean, market time on those are like kiss them goodbye. Lakeview's probably right behind that. But honestly, it was like that 2-2, 500, etc. But if we're talking overall just like overall, take price point out of it, which was just like you like drive in the neighborhood and it just gets hot. Like you're just like, I'm just like got to turn on like the AC. I'm going with Lincoln Park. You know, like stats wise, it had, you know, some of the lowest inventory. It had some of the lowest market time. You know, and I know the stats really well of like what market time was and what was like, you know, like average sales price and stuff. And like, I like honestly in this case, like I don't care what the stats say in this one. I just don't. Because I do know that if something comes on in Lincoln Park and it shows well and it's priced right and it's in like true Lincoln Park, like it just flies. It just flies. And like, you know, you compare that to like the Loop, okay? Like it's just like, it's like night and day, okay? So yeah, hands down, LP. It's the golden statue of Chicago right now. That wasn't always the case. But I almost feel like, wouldn't this be awesome if like every year, like at the end of the year, right? Like there was an actual statue that went to, and it's like Rob Stark, you know, and it like goes to like the neighborhood that won the best, you know, because like Chicago's the North, right? So like King of the North. So which was the King of the North this year? It's like this year we're putting Stark up in Lincoln Park. Let's see who gets it next year. And then like all the neighborhoods in Chicago kind of compete for that award. Like who's got the best real estate this year? I don't know. It would be something sick to talk about though too, right? Because everybody brags about numbers. I'm the best real estate. It's like fucking like the average consumer's like, shut up, dude. Like what neighborhood's the coolest, right? So like have like a cool Chicago award and then honestly it'd be like a good Instagram. Listen, I'm throwing an idea at you, Brandon Johnson, okay? Like let's get some good positive press here. This is, you know, every year like people kind of go to Lincoln Park this year for the rest of the year and they just get a picture next to the statue. You know, they get a picture next to good old Robbie Stark saying like this is the King of the North this year. You know, who's going to win next year? Maybe West Loop wins next year. Maybe it's Roscoe Village or Logan Square, you know, like whatever it is. But like, I don't know, it's a cool idea. But anyways, totally off topic here as I normally do. Lincoln Park was the best. What was the worst performance neighborhood in Chicago? River North. It's like not even close. Where we're at right now, sitting here, River North. It was the biggest loser of the year. And you know, I own a ridiculous amount of real estate in River North, and my office is in River North, and you know, so that's not me. You know, somebody's like, oh, you don't support the neighborhood. That's not what I'm saying at all. The question is what performed the worst. It's hands down. It had the most inventory, had the most market time, it had the most listings that came on the market and didn't sell, okay? It also has places that are priced less than what people paid for them back in like 2012 in some situations and still not moving, okay? So, you know, you take a place in Lincoln Park, okay, the King of the North, right? And you put something up that sold for in 2012. You'll see that thing fly like a rocket ship. It's going to go out like a frickin', you know, Elon Musk rocket. It's just going to go skyrocketing through the air here. You say that from River North, and it's like, comes on, people like, I don't know, probably how much more rooms it got, right? And it's unfortunate that it's been that way. I do think it'll change. Stay tuned for my prediction side, which some things I got to talk about when I talk about this next week. You know, talking about predictions for next year, but you know, for the time being, it was the biggest loser, and it is unfortunate. You know, the big problem that River North's folding into is threefold. You know, it's been like crime's been an issue, lack of back to work. You know, the sanctuary status has hurt it with certain things going on in the neighborhoods, and you just have the overall negative perception. You know, where people were like, oh, it used to be nice, but not anymore. And I think sometimes the perception of things can actually be worse than the reality of things. And I think I think RN, Gold Coast, Streeterville, South part of Old Town, Loop, New East Side, you know, they've really been getting the more of a negative press than positive. And guess what, guys? What goes down always goes up, right? There's always that moment. So we're going to talk about this a little bit in predictions, but I don't think the end is near. I think Phoenix's rise from the ashes is what they say, right? I'm like, let's go, right? Like I'm big on this, but I'm going to save that for predictions. But right now it's the worst. But, you know, what's that saying? It always gets darkest before it gets bright, you know? So stay tuned for that. But today, right now, worst. 2 years from now, what do people love? What do frickin' people love in America? More than anything in the world? Cinderella story, right? We love that Cinderella story. Yeah, the comeback. Sometimes the comeback's better than already being on top, right? 1980s, you know, United States going against Russia, Olympics. We won it. That wasn't even the championship game. That's all people talk about. That wasn't even for the gold. That was just to win. You know what I mean? We love a Cinderella story, right? You know, Rocky beating Apollo, right? Like Cinderella, one of the best movies of all time. And we go on and on. David vs. Goliath, right? You know? Yeah, 300, right? Spartan, right? Spartan's going against Persian Empire. I mean, go on and on. You guys know about the United States of America, Revolutionary War, where ragtag bunch of guys without a formal commander, and boom, good old George Dubs comes out of nowhere, defeats one of the Unstoppables. I mean, come on. That's America, baby. We love a Cinderella story. So, we're going to talk about these. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but yeah, we're the worst performing down here right now, but you just wait. You just wait. I love a comeback story. I might watch a comeback story tonight. Just one of those movies. I watched Good Will Hunting the other day. You remember Good Will Hunting? I got to tell you, man. I mean, Matt Damon, that movie, man, he's ripped. He's a good-looking guy. I forgot how good-looking Matt Damon was. When he was younger, good-looking guy. And Ben Stiller, man. Or not Ben Stiller, Ben Affleck. Wow. Yeah, those two were good together. I forgot how awesome. That's when those guys were awesome. Remember when they won the Academy Award too, and they were cheering up there? That was the coolest thing ever. I don't know. What are we even talking about anymore? End of year recap. Okay. River North. Yeah, River North. River North's coming back. Yeah. Just like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They're coming back, baby. Their careers are coming back. Are we up or down this year? We're up. We're up a good amount. I mean, last year, I think we finished around 255, 256 closed and pending, and this year we'll finish probably a little bit above 300 closed and pending, depending on what closes and what doesn't. So, we'll be up around anywhere from 25 to 40 million. Now that's a big spread, but some of it depends on what closes and what. We got some big deals that can always fall apart at any moment. So that all kind of takes in a factor here of what can and can't happen. And I do think that, it's, I think it's a testament to 25. Like I said, it's not the best year ever. This will finish as my personal and my company's second best year of my career. But I'm a big believer, and you should always be better than you were. I live my life by the standard that I need to be a better version of myself each and every day. And every day that I'm not a better version of myself, I let myself down. I'm extremely hard on myself. I was texting somebody earlier today that I have the same routine. 7 days a week, I do the same exact thing. I run 4 miles, maybe 4.1, depending on where it's at. Work out for 45 minutes. Put the kids in the car. I get ready. I go, and I come home at 8. Eat, put the family to bed, and then I work till I literally just fall asleep, and I wake up with my computer on my lap and get up and do it again. That's my daily routine. If I sleep in for 10 minutes, actually than I'm supposed to, I am very grumpy the whole day. Even though it's 10 minutes. People are like, 10 minutes, right? But to me, 10 minutes, it's just showing that I wasn't the best version of myself. So when I look at are we up or down and should we be happy? It's well, I expect to always do better the next year than I did the year before because I expect to be a better version of myself. So I can't really reflect that on the overall market just because we had a great year. And I think that's a big problem that realtors have is well, I had an awesome year. It's well, you may have an awesome year. Maybe you have a good business, right? Good for you. You have a great business. I'm proud of you that you did successful. But just because you had a good year, we had a great year, right? We're going to finish number 1 or number 2. That's going to be something to be said. But, at the end of the year, it's how did the market perform? Not how did you perform, how did the market perform? Do we think we'll finish number 1 this year? Honestly, I mean, it's going to come down to the wire. I've been looking at the stats. It's close. It's very close. I think it's possible we could take this, but I think it's going to be down to the wire. We're talking whoever wins this thing, and this is just for Chicago. On the overall basis, we'll finish top dog. But on just the Chicago numbers, it's going to be between $1 and $800,000 difference between 1 and 2. It's honestly that's what we should be watching. We should document that. These last couple days. I mean, you're talking less than 800,000 is gonna make the number 1 guy. That's pretty badass. That's like a Super Bowl, 4th quarter. Tommy B's got the ball. He's driving. 10 seconds left. That's exciting, and that's kind of where it's at. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And you know what? If we don't finish number 1, finish number 2, it's hats off. Number 1 guy, he's a buddy of mine. I think he's cool. It is what it is. How many homes are we projected to sell this year? We'll be well north of 500, which will be the second best of all time as well for us. So, we move a lot. We move a lot of houses, but we're not a churn and burn. We have a great process down. We have good staff. Our staff is, I'd say, A++. to make sure that everybody has a great experience. But yeah, we're going to move a decent amount. How many days off did I take this year? Currently, I'm sitting at 14 days off, okay, which is an impossible task. And people out there are like, oh, I could do that. Remember, this counts weekends, okay? And this means that I did not take off before 4 o'clock on a weekend, and I did not take off before 6:30 on a weekday. And to give you an example how this holds is that one of my kids, actually both my kids, were like sang in one of those Christmas recitals, and it started at 6:30. So it's like, hey, Matt, you're off because it's 6:30. That's not a half day. It's like, well, I'm going to play by the rules. I have to leave by 5:45 to make it there by 6:30. Now, I made calls the whole way, so I was working still, but I left at 5:45. So guess what that means, guys? Half day, okay? So that put me at 14. So I'm at 14. I'm going to take Christmas off, so that'll put me at 15. I'll probably cut out early one day between Christmas and New Year's for a dinner. I'll probably do a dinner before 6:30 with the family. I'll do one family dinner before the end of the year. So let's call it 15 and a half. I'll finish at 15 and a half. Maybe 16. I highly doubt it. 15 and a half. 15 and a half will be my second best performance of all time. My best performance was the lockdown year 2020 of 9 days. I'll never beat 9 days again. That's an impot. I think 9 days off, I would be willing to challenge anybody. I'd put a large sum of the money that you couldn't do it. You mentally can't. I don't think somebody understands the mental strength you need to go through to be able to take that little time off. And I'm talking like you're on. So, who took off the most days? We got a guy that is up there. He's about to be moved to part-time status. Let's put it that way. Yeah, he's. I think we're gonna have a conversation about that one. It's gotten a little out of hand. What's the best text you've gotten from a client this year? I don't think there's one that stands out. I really don't. I think anytime anybody said that they were happy with their services, and I'll be frank, I'd say like 90% of the time that we get positive feedback back, people aren't thanking me directly. They're thanking my agents or my staff. Specifically, my staff gets called out the most. Like Jamie and Gretch and Jess, sometimes Miranda. But overall, just messing, guys. Overall, the staff gets called out the most, and then the sales staff second, and then myself third. And here's the thing, and this is for anybody in a leadership position or anybody that's in real estate position or anything like that, where a lot of people will think, hey, because I'm not the one that people seem to be the most appreciative to, I need to make sure that I puff up my chest, be like, well, they work for me, blah, blah, blah. It's like the biggest compliment you can ever have is when people compliment your staff and the people that work for you. Because ultimately, it's your leadership that got them there. But not only is it your leadership, it's your staff has such pride in their job that they want to be that good. And they want to be that good because they like where they work, which is ultimately something that you've accomplished as a good thing of having a good company culture. And so I love it when they get complimented more than me because they should. They're also hustling as hard, and they don't get as much recognition. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing when we get a good text that says something like that. What's the worst text you've gotten? So somebody texted me this ahead of time. It wasn't directly to me, but it was sent to one of my guys, and it is. Let me just read this because this gives you an idea. Because I don't save mine, and I've read off some mean tweets and stuff like that, but I never save the ones that I have that are bad. But this guy saved this one, and this is gonna give you an idea of how people treat us on a daily basis. Listen, you 5-foot bleeping nobody. Key holder, you're not my bleeping boss. I'll deal with my landlord. I've had enough of your bleeping BS. Don't ever call me again. You don't own this place, you money-hungry bleep. Are we bleep understood? Show it if you oompa loompa bleeping bleep. You want to see how the Marine Corps handles business? Say another bleeping word to me. I won't be the one when you bleep yourself because you're a bleepin' bleep realtor. I hate you, mother bleeper. So that's probably I don't know if that's the worst. I've gotten some pretty bad ones outside of that, but that's a pretty good one. Personally, I think it's hilarious. I do think it's funny when people text stuff like this. Because honestly, to me, if you text something like that, I'm just telling you right now, like I grew up with a father that's 6'4", 250 pounds. We got our asses kicked when we were kids. We got hit when we were kids. And I don't, like when you say that now, people are like, oh, it's like everybody got hit in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like it's just in like, I think it's a new thing. People don't hit their kids. Like I don't touch my kids. You go to DCFS. When we say hit, it's not like we're like, like beat up or we got bloody noses. You know what I mean? You got spanked. You know what I mean? I say something like that. You got spanked. You know what I mean? I just think like I read something like that and I've like, so like my point of the original thing is like, you grew up with a dad that like, corrects you when you make a mistake. Like I'm not really intimidated. You got a guy that's 6'4", 250 with we used to have the Conan belt. Like when we got like bad grades or something happened, you got hit with the Conan belt. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can't even describe how bad that hurt. Okay. Yeah. And guess what? Maybe not want to like mess up again, but you got somebody like talking crap after that. So I'm like, first off, I'm not intimidated. Okay. Second off, even, this guy can easily beat me up. I can already tell him that, yeah, you could beat me up, but like, I'm not impressed. Like, I feel bad for you when I get texts like that. Like, I feel bad. Like, that's just like an insecurity thing. Like, if you got to talk like that, you're just like completely insecure about yourself. Like, like it's kind of like if you talk about money, you don't got money, right? Like, it's just like, like it's just weird to talk about if you got it. It's just like nobody wants to hear about it. Nobody cares. If you could beat me up in a fight, like you don't need to tell me you could beat me up. Like nobody cares. Like you could beat me up. I guarantee most people probably can beat me up. But like if you got to talk, like if you're a UFC fighter, okay, like a what do they call them? Like gold belts? What do they got now? Belts, right? Yeah, belts. Whatever. You get a title. You're not like walking around and be like, I'll beat you up. Like you could beat everybody up. Like you got the title. You're the toughest guy in fucking. So you get a text like that, where people threaten to beat you up. It's like, yeah, okay. Like I can't take many people, but I could probably take that guy. That's what I say in my head. So like, yeah, we get these texts all the time of people going crazy. Okay. And when we say about worst text, it's like that's just an eye into our business of showing like we get a few things like that a week from people. I go out to dinner with somebody the other day. I talk on the phone to a lot of agents, and we always talk about like people treat us like dirt. Like I'm talking like dirt. Like I don't think I ever get talked down to them. I don't think people could ever talk down to people like I see on a daily basis the way people talk to us. Like we're like the gum on the shoe that they're picking off. So like you just get used to it. Like I don't take offense to it. So like people say, is that the worst? It's like, yeah, I think it's funny. I do think it's funny. How many parking tickets did I get this year? I mean, at least 2 a week. At least 2 a week. I mean, I think it's funny, but I also like it is super annoying. It's gotten out of control. Like these guys, like they know it's us. And what's the worst part is like like the city's not even making any money off this stuff, which is like the most annoying thing. What's the best trip I took this year? I took 2 vacations this year, which lasted less than 14 days off. I'll tell you that. One of them was to probably I don't know. I love Napa. I go to Napa every July. So this is how big of we talked about routine earlier. This is how big of a weirdo I am. Every 4th of July for 4 days, I go to Napa every year, no matter what, like clockwork. I love that trip, but the best trip's probably the family trip. We do one family trip a year too. And we went to Rosemary Beach with the entire family. Yeah, Rosemary Beach. Shout out to 30A, Florida. I mean, that place is sick. That was the best trip. We didn't even do anything. I just worked at the poolside. Kids yelled at me all day, but it was good. It was a good time. Let's see here. What price point did the worst? Above $1.5 million in downtown Chicago. Anything in the downtown markets above 1.5. At one point, we had like 22 months of inventory. I think we're down to about like 16 to 18 months. You got to check the stats for the things, but like it's not even close. You got something, and in fact, the luxury market downtown, I think, was worse this year than last year. Because I have a bunch of listings that we've had for years, and they've gotten less showings this year than we had last year. We got fired from a couple big listings this year. Going into next year, that's a recap, is like, getting fired from some of these ones. And I had 2 conversations with 2 really good clients. We get along great, like just awesome. And they just told me, they're like, listen, Matt, like you've had this thing for 4 years. I had 2 listings for 4 years. And they were like, we just got to try something different, And like, does it sting when somebody that you like and you've done so much? I've probably spent close to like $7,000 or $8,000 minimum on these things, trying to get rid of these things, and so you lose a lot of money, and then so you're not making any money. You lost money, you lost your time, and you get fired. And does it suck? It's like, yeah, but like ultimately, like if I'm them, I see their point of view. There's a big thing I always do is I put myself in somebody else's shoes, right? So if like they're like, it's 4 years, I love this guy, and they said it to me. They're like, we really like you. Like, and they went on this tangent what they liked, and they're like, but like we got to see if something changes. So you can't get hurt about it. It's, dude, this business is business. It's not like they said they hated my guts and they want to see me die. Like, and we get that call. Trust me, I've read your text already. We get that call. They were just like, ultimately, we got to go a different direction. So like, the high-end market was a really, really tough sell. At the same time, what was the best price point? Anything under $500,000 in the outskirts. $500,000 specifically, like I said, in LP, Roscoe, Westtown, Lakeview. I mean, it's just like, how high does it go? That was the way to look at it. Like, how high would it go? Overall, what was my impression in the downtown markets? Do we still have a tale of two cities? Yes, we still have a tale of two cities. Yes, the downtown market still sucks. Yes, I think it's going to finally get better, but that's a prediction talk. But yeah, it was it was definitely, if we look at a year in review, I would say that the entry-level market in the downtown Chicago was easier to sell this year than it was last year. Like, we're actually moving our stuff. Like, 2 years ago, you put something up for $500,000 in River North or Streeterville or something like that, and like it wouldn't sell. It was like a $1.5 million place. It was just like, it just wouldn't sell. Now we'll sell it. I get something $500,000. Somebody calls me. It's like, yeah, I'll move that. Like, I'm going to sell it. 2 years ago, I actually didn't get hired a ton because I was like, I don't think we'll sell it. Just being honest, I was like, I just don't think we'll sell it. And then somebody else would get it. They wouldn't sell it, or they would reduce it down to like $350 all the way from $5. And I was just like, well, I'm not going to be that guy that's going to lie to you to get the business. So. What goals did you meet this year, and what will you change next year? Honestly, the goal for this year was to be the number 1 agent in Chicago. The goal, which I don't know, it's like 70% chance we'll hit that. And the other goal was to be better than we were the year before, which we'll hit. And the other goal was to just overall perfect our systems even more, which I think we did. So I think we've met our short-term goals, but I always strive for more deals. I mean, another thing that we talked about was trying to open up a second office because we do so much business. Well, we refer so much business out to the burbs, which we're not going to do anymore. So we did officially sign a lease to start, Laricy team in Hinsdale. So we got that opened up. So it was another goal is to expand and conquer. I compare it to a war. Once you take over, own it, and you do it better than anybody else, you then move on. And this is how I started my career. I started, when I decided to concentrate downtown Chicago, I said, hey, listen, I started at 60605, which is South Loop. I bought that zip code up, and I bought it on one website. And I crushed it on that site. I owned that better than anybody did. And then I took the money I made from there and I went to a different website that also offered that zip code. And I crushed it on that. And there's 3 websites that had zip codes. Then I went to the 3rd site, bought that zip code, dominated, crushed it on all 3 sites. And then what I did, I moved my army on to the next zip code. Then I went to 60611. And then I dominated that on all 3 sites. Then I bought 10. Then I bought 54. Then I bought 14. Then I bought 57. And that's what I did is piece by piece, I conquered it. And that's how you did it. Like I'm a big history buff. I love studying war and armies and how they operate and what they did. And that's exactly what you did. And now we've got a foothold. We got our troops in place. We know the city inside and out. Can't touch us. We know what we're doing. But we're taking our people and we're sending them off into the distance and we're sending them off unprotected. And I was like, we gotta protect these people again. So we're sending out an army. We're sending out some scouts. We sent out some scouts last year to kind of understand what was happening in the markets, studied it, and we planted a flag in downtown Hinsdale. We're opening that office up, and that team will start there, and slowly but surely, like a virus, they're going to take that over, and then we'll move north. But that's a big thing. It's not going to take away from our business downtown. Don't anybody out there think like this is not our bread and butter. But it's for too long we referred it out and. Business decision, I probably should have done this 5 years ago, but I'm a slow learner. But once I do it, it's like a blitzkrieg. It comes out of nowhere, and just watch out. So most of our goals that we want to do, those were most of our goals that we did hit. What do we think we're going to be doing differently next year? I'm a big believer in the fourth quarter, understand where your weaknesses are, improve on them. So we looked at all the things that we did wrong. I'd probably say the biggest thing that we don't do that everybody does do that I've always been against is like client appreciation stuff, more client-facing stuff. I don't do any client-facing stuff. I don't know. I always just think like, you don't want to see us, I don't know. But everybody does it so well. So next year, we're going to throw a minimum of 2 events. So stay tuned if you're one of our clients. And these are going to be, I don't half-ass anything. So these are going to be pretty badass. I think our first one's going to be like a extremely out of control, fancy, ridiculously high-end, most expensive wine you've ever drank at like a Porsche dealership. And we're going to be giving away, this will be a big thing we're going to do differently next year, is we're going to be doing one big giveaway. And we're talking like, it's like, could be that big. So it's going to be big. It's going to be big. So stay tuned for the details on it. But that's going to be a big thing that we're going to switch up going into next year. What's the biggest thing that you did improvement-wise to try to be successful this year? Honestly, we never did mailers to our clients. We did like maybe 1 or 2 a year. So we got more consistent with that. We started doing that once a month. And there's some other things we did. We improved our Monday newsletter. I think crushes it. If you don't subscribe to our Monday newsletter, I highly suggest you sign up for it. We're actually going to turn that into a post moving forward as well on social, but it's an extremely personal story, extremely personal. I think some of these are pretty good. Then we tie that into the marketplace of what's happened in the market. And that has gotten us a lot of business. So I think that's been the second big piece, second big thing that we did that helped grow our business this year. What's the best news for Chicago this year? Honestly, I think the 3 pillars that hurt the city, crime, sanctuary, and lack of back to work, I think with a new DA in office, I think the announcement that, it looks like feds are going back 5 days a week, which means other businesses will, and they closed the Inn of Chicago, which had 1,500 migrants downtown, which crushed the downtown markets. Now, I know all 3 of these are super controversial, and people are upset when I say it out loud, and I get yelled at a lot of times by clients, but guys, I can't change the stats that downtown Chicago is the second worst market in the country behind downtown San Francisco. I can't change that. I can't change the fact that we've lost over 10 years of appreciation. I can't change the fact that the market crashed downtown Chicago like 3 times worse than it did during the Great Recession. What I can tell you is if I look at why, because people always ask me, why is it so down? Do you know how many calls I get from people in Europe and Asia and New York and Florida and all these other places like, why is Chicago so down downtown? Why are these? It's so cheap. And I'm like, well, after 4 years of studying this, there's 3 reasons why, and those are the 3. And guess what? What's the best news for Chicago? The 3 reasons that cut our legs off from underneath us are now done. And that's why we're going to rise from the ashes, which we'll touch on in the predictions. How do you feel about, we don't need to talk about that. What do we hope to accomplish next year? We'll talk about that next week. Let's save that for that's a prediction. That's not a recap. The biggest thing that I can tell you as a close here is that I'm incredibly happy with everything that's kind of happening here this year. I think we had a bang-up year, and I think most importantly, the reason that our year was so strong was solely because of all of our clients and all of our friends and family that have recommended us and supported us. I started this journey back in 2006 in the South Side Chicago without $1 in my pocket or a pot to piss in. And I came downtown in 2008 after the Lehman Brothers crashed, and I had nothing. I didn't have an office. I didn't have a presence. I didn't have any investors. I didn't have anything, but I had a winning attitude. And a lot of people took a chance on me, somebody who had nothing and believed that I would be the best person at their job. And slowly but surely that kind of spread like a wildfire, and we built it to where we are today. And the only reason we got to where we're at today is because of all the people out there that help support us. So when I look back on this year's review, I want to be, make sure that everybody understands how grateful we are for all the people that have supported us. So thank you to everybody out there, and stay tuned for our predictions because I got some pretty wild ones. So talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.